So 2024 is almost over, and yeah, I'm still hanging in there. But let's not dwell on our own dystopian reality. Let's dive into the dystopian chaos of Ishura Season 1. Ever feel like most anime protagonists don't have enough layers to keep things interesting? Well, Ishura flips the script by cranking the complexity up to 11. The story follows Imashime of Taren and a colourful cast of characters grappling with the aftermath of their big bad's downfall. And then, bam, a civil war breaks out. What unfolds is a fascinating glimpse into what Star Wars might look like post-Emperor, with all the power struggles and chaos you could ask for. You intrigued yet? Episode 1. A rumbling is felt across the city, and we don't get a lot of time to think about it before we get a flashback to one of the main characters of the story, Dui Kagezume no Yuno, or just Yuno and Lucille. We get to see a few golems thrash around and get introduced to force powers. We don't get to focus on it for long enough because Ishura's really determined to show how edgy it can be when they rip Lucille in pieces, and as Yuno's about to get the same treatment, that's when the other main character then shows up. Sojiro Yagyu pops up and makes mincemeat out of these stone sentinels. He puffs up his chest and declares that all those guys who died fighting the Great Labyrinth are chumps. He's going to be the one to put it down. All he wants, of course, is a meal, and off swinging he goes. But the Labyrinth isn't going to take this lying down. He's going to crumble standing up since Sojiro is having a blast, showing us all you don't need magic powers when you're built different. He chomps off its arms and it falls with our swordsman saving the day. All in all, a clean ending. However, it's a little too clean for Yuno here. The guy who beat the monster just happened to show up the day it was unleashed. Either way, she guides him to the next leg of his journey and hopes he never has to deal with his bandana-loving butt again. Episode 2. We then see the big bad demon king everyone's been freaking out about. How he created an age of fear, but a lone hero came forth and ended the world's misery, their origin and identity unknown. Now they've got to find someone else to fill that role. We get a little look into the two lands, Taren and Oriatia, and the hierarchy of power. It also goes on about the whole basic plot of the story, namely the need for a hero chosen by the people. We even meet a cast of colourful characters. A guy with tree roots popping out of him, a literal talking skeleton, and a woman character. After some nice exposition, bandits pop along with some wyverns and we get to see something pretty interesting. A monster race that isn't anthropomorphic. Going back to the battle, the bandits don't stand a chance when the cooler wyverns show up and take care of all the hostiles in the area, thanks to one especially main character feeling wyvern. Then we get to see some shady folks whining and dining as they talk like they're on Game of Thrones with all the political exposition and planning they're doing. Meanwhile, the general's feeling pretty miffed about all his hunting parties falling as the giant dragon Vikion feels like having some minion for dinner. Vikion isn't looking too good thanks to an encounter with a certain wyvern champion, and just as the general was going to be a barbecue, that very wyvern we just saw stands on top of a mountain. A pretty cool fight scene happens and our smaller lizard demolishes the bigger one, saving the general's life. This leads to a pretty dramatic confrontation about the general's guilt for killing all those wyverns to chase glory, and the weird bond Arlis the Star Runner has with his old man. The two part ways as Arlis heads off to the Great Labyrinth of Nargan to seek his own glory. Episode 3. If you thought we were done with character intros, then you're dead wrong, since now we have a new name to remember, and it certainly won't be the last one. This time, Taren. After a touching scene about how nice she is, she meets with her subordinate Darkeye about his task to figure out what's going on with that Cold Star and the Labyrinth. Things only get stranger for them as they discover that the golem wasn't taken down by Darkeye, but by a mysterious third party. Either way, she's worried that Oratia might send bandits to attack Lithia, her home kingdom, by targeting its merchants. Taren sends Darkeye to look for spies, and it doesn't take the guy long. Either he's really good, or these guys just suck. I'm leaning towards the latter because they get sliced in like 2 microseconds each, ending the threat right there and then. But it's not Ishura if there isn't another thing happening somewhere that we have to pay attention to at the same time. Now we focus on Lord Regneji, the wyvern mentioned in the last episode, as he questions his men about a little carnivorous incident with a Lithian. After some old-fashioned discipline, Regneji heads off, leaving a reminder to his men about what happens when he's defied. We then get a surprisingly tender scene where the brutal wyvern meets the blind girl Kurt and the peace he gets from hearing her sing as we hear the tale that binds these two together. There are a lot of layers here, I have to say. Regneji heads off once more. Episode 4. At the Eurasian Central Detention Center, the suit and hat guy is planning on unleashing what he claims is one of the most dangerous bioweapons out there after some spies of his wound up dead and he needs some assurances for his big important assassination. And of course, this danger is a waifu type named Nihilo. Then we get a compressed hot spring episode when the anime takes advantage of its rating as Elia shows off her goods and goes on about how much she loves beauty and how important it is. Well, this bath scene is also plot significant since Elia actually explains a bit about the magic system to a smaller girl whose name I won't bother with now, okay? Turns out their magic is called word arts and it's usually in 4 categories: thermal, craft, force, and life. Now, with that out of the way, we get introduced to Kia and we get a closer look into Elia as well, from her dark past to her motivation for being with the elves, and that has to do with her belief that Kia has the potential to be one of the champions. After some display of power on the potential champion, the two head off to Oriatia. Episode 5. And now we finally get to see some familiar characters as we're back in Lithia and our Queen Tharan is having a chat with Higuare, the tree guy, skeleton man, and a girl character. She's got them employed for her service and we find out she's still looking for Kia and her special word art. We don't get to focus on it long before it's flashback time and get a glimpse into Higuare's past as a tree forced into violence and combat. Weird choice for a gladiator, but the man gets the job done with his 42 arms and poison words. His reputation is especially set when the guy single-handedly turns the tide on a demon invasion. Sakai pops up and really jacks off the crew on how cool and awesome they are. Still, Train believes that she needs an army of qualified warriors with unique skills to change the tide, and the crew agrees after Higuare shows off some more, and we see that the guy is amicable but a free spirit. We switch back to the Oratia gang as the new character Kuze goes off with Nihilo for the mission but gets a little sidetracked when a village girl wants help with Lithia and brings some conflict with his loyalty to the suit and hat guy Hido. Now this doesn't last long when some mooks pop up to go killing as mooks do, but have to deal with Kuze's trump card, Nastique the Angel, who happens to be invisible and has authority over life and death. Man, these powers are getting weird, aren't they? The village girl dies thanks to Nastique's power and Kuze reflects on how weird angels are. Episode 6. Hido is a little worried about Lithia having Tharan and a buttload of forces. That's why he's trying to recruit Yuno and Sojiro to join forces, but the guy's more concerned about the champion competition, but relents when Hido points out he kinda needs their support and winning a war is one way to get it. Hido suspects Tharan's connection to Nagan City and the Labyrinth incident, which is enough to draw Yuno in. Revenge truly is the best way to bring folks together. Meanwhile, Lithia is going through some drama as Dark Eye tells Regneji that Kurt's a backstabber while said person is having dinner with Tharan. Kurt mentions her will to save Lithia, but also tells Tharan to stop putting that lizard she's with in so much danger. Meanwhile, Elia and Kia arrive in the city where it's all happening, and Elia makes some moves to secure Kia's future by making some deals with the girl character, or Lana, since I have no choice but to learn her name, since after a bit of back and forth and some spying, it turns out that Lana's the spy this whole time and has been putting the blame on Kurt with the braille writing, which Dark Eye buys, which really proves my point on his competence. Lana is apprehended and Elia decides whether she needs to free her or to kill her. Episode 7. Things are really picking up now, as we see some armed focus from Oriatia to their outskirt Mage City. And with them is a very nervous Yuno, who's here to head to Lithia's border. That whole drama we saw before? Yeah, those bandit attacks are becoming really problematic. Lithia's saying it's on them to fix it, and they're the ones causing it to drain resources. According to the Oratian focus, they just want to keep the peace and protect everyone, but mean old Tharen's got those nasty wyverns on her side, and she just wants to kick sand to their lunchboxes. Sojiro looks excited to fight someone worth his time, while the soldiers remind him that she was given the moniker of Ashura for a reason. Well, we don't get to stick to the propaganda for long until we see the two figures starting to make their way to them, Higuare the tree guy and Bone Man Shulk. Sojiro gets his wish as he and Shulk cross sword and scythe, while Higuare is already done, ending the soldiers' lives. Those 42 limbs really do come in handy. Also, Yuno is there. Meanwhile, Hido is having a meeting with the general from the second episode, Hargent, who's a little worried about the swarm of wyverns he has to contend with, as well as the danger of Arlus, the Star Runner. The stolen start from Nagan City remains a mystery, and Hido's shocked to witness a Lithian attack on the Mage City, despite their seemingly friendly relations. Panicking and unable to reach Sojiro, Hido contacts Nihilo for the bioweapon to get things done. Nihilo reveals a giant-looking spider thing, and we get a little fan service as she connects to the thing. That's when we see that giant, creepy, crawly skitter its way to the Lithians. Episode 8. War's looking ever closer now as we cut back to just a little before that blast on Mage City. Just not a good name. Either way, Yuno's having a little convo with Dark Eye, what with her being captured and all, and she learns that some scholars of theirs were exploring the labyrinth. Yuno asks why they're pulling that, and if they did nothing to stop the conspiracies for war. Dark Eye goes all villain on her and admits that it's not on him to control people's desire for war. Aside from the red flag there, Yuno thinks about how this is straight up everything she hates. Guys like Dark Eye and Sojiro just keep doing what they want, all the while not caring who's underfoot. Man, she's got a grudge against sword guys. In the meantime, the named characters of Lithia are having a little war meeting while the Wyvern army is messing the city up, causing Hargent to take charge. Well, he figures out the pretty basic tactics these guys have, and that maybe these Lithian forces attacking the city, they have a treaty which might be a sign that they're violating the treaty. And just when he's about to be a mortality rate, our boy Arlus appears and saves this old fart's life once again. Well, the citizens of Mage City aren't complete pushovers as they rise against their oppressors. Naturally, they have no shot, but that's where a named wyvern and a giant spider are pretty handy to have around. Meanwhile, Elia and Kia are here. They found Lana and managed to cross out one more name that I've got to memorize when Higuare the tree guy appears and disappears forever in the way of death. Things aren't safe for them as Guze the assassin pops up, and now they got to deal with a guy who's got an invisible angel ready to kill anyone who so much touches the guy. Episode 9. Sojiro's back at it in the gates of Lithia, deflecting and dodging bullets like he's a shonen dad against child support. He isn't in it for long as help arrives in the form of a giant spider who makes quick work of the lot of them. Sojiro's initially confused, and while Nihilo tries to clarify things, the shonen strong guy trope in him just won't let things pass, so of course he's gonna take a swing at her. They clash for a bit before Nihilo decides to actually move on to the task, but not before commenting that the crazy sword guy is actually strong. Meanwhile, the wyverns are fighting as Regneji and Arlus go on a pretty epic clash. Things the Star Runner's way too OP for them to deal with head on, so Regneji applies some tactical thinking. They take pot shots, surprise attacks, and distraction techniques to keep Arlus occupied, and it's frankly working, even getting him on the run. Regneji keeps on pushing by using some word arts to summon a swarm of beetles, which seem to really mess him up. Arlus has his own plan as he rushes up and ignites a high tower, which creates a chain reaction that wipes out all of the opposing forces. Well, at least those against him. He manages to survive thanks to the shield of the dead thing he used earlier, and we saw him use it before. He laments a little as that blast kinda wiped out some folks that he didn't want to see dead. Episode 10. Things are looking risky for Lithia here as Nihilo really messes the city up. Dark Ear finally proves to not be completely useless as he goes out with his men to confront the 8-legged crawler. Naturally, they fail for the most part until Dark Eye decides to get a little creative with a poisonous dagger and a stolen sword, leading to the end of Spider Lady. But forget about those losers, it's time for Elliot and Kia to think about doing something. They find themselves at risk from some Mage City soldiers until our favourite Bone Boy Shulk appears and saves their hides, noting they're strangers like he's memorized every person in this city. Meanwhile, we see those dirty Lithians have a heart as the soldiers work to evacuate the citizens from danger, while Elliot and Kia are really dead set on finding Lana. They're like obsessed with her. Speaking of, Lana's kind of freaking out after Higuara experienced a near instant death while destruction happens across the city. She thinks it has to do with the world word Kia's got and not the country she's been backing on the sly. Well, my point keeps being proved when Lana goes to activate the blue star and aims a devastating plasma bolt at the city, sending it to the great land in the sky. But OP powers exist for a reason, and all Kia had to do was say a word and blast halts and implodes, saving the city, and it might as well extinguish the fires too. The two finally get to Lana, who seems to have had a change of heart and swears to protect Kia from seeing violence. Elia buys this, and the episode ends with Lana joining the duo to become a trio. Episode 11. Both nations have been through the ringer as the people of Eurasia get ready for the hero competition as their city is ruled by Thalan's Iron Fist, whilst Lithia's own conflict's aftermath starts unfolding. Dark-Eye meets Yuno and tells her it's not her fault and that he'll help her. Luckily, Sojiro shows up to have his battle, since God knows that's the only thing he's done. The two admit the other is so strong and cool and basically jack each other off, as I'm just siding more and more with Yuno as my girl's been through it. In the end, there's a fight scene where they blab about their technique and Dark-Eye's finally dead, and hopefully don't have to remember his name anymore. Meanwhile, the anime makes a point to remember the blind girl, and we see Kurt tending to a messed up Regneji. Turns out, standing next to a massive explosion isn't good for your skin. General Hargent pops up ready to start blasting, but Kurt tries to talk to him since all she wants is to keep her wyvern friends safe. Well, not on his watch, as Arliss lets them know about the safety of Eternity by blasting the two of them, ending their story. Our girl's determined to uncover the mystery regarding the Demon King and his demise, while Skeleton Man wonders if maybe she's the true Demon King. Episode 12. Guze pops in to talk with Tharan about her daughter Kurt, calling out the need for this war and that the country was never going to last with no army of its own, not comprised of mercenaries and monsters. Tharan talks about the madness of ambition, but it honestly feels like there's more to her motivation, as one of the most interesting characters in this show gets ready to confront the guy who can't die, while she admits that her greatest hope is to one day find a hero who can show people there's more than fear out there. Meanwhile, my personal arch-enemy Lana ruins my day further by making herself sympathetic as she panics over how there are still monsters out there that can just wipe out a town as she slowly dies from poison caused by Elia way earlier. Turns out the professor keeps her cards close. Well, it's epilogue time as we see the surviving characters go their separate ways. Hido and Hagen wonder how that fire just vanished, while Elia and Kia get out of Dodge as they vow to stick together wherever they go. Elia also vows to make sure no one ever knows the truth about Kia until it's time. Guze is with a gravekeeper as they talk about all the deaths that have happened as a result of this war. Sojiro and Yuno get out to Eurasia as they travel together, while Yuno promises to finally learn more about our mysterious swordsman. In Eurasia, Hido discovers Nihilo's corpse and finds out that Arliss is alive and well, as he kind of becomes their trump card and gets Hido's endorsement for the championship. Of course, the show ends on a flashback from a year ago, where Minister Jelki, the warrior Yuka, and Queen Cephite discuss their inability to find the true hero and instead look for a self-proclaimed one, setting up the stage for the warriors we've gotten to know, and maybe some new ones we'll be seeing soon. And that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of this juicy content. See you next time.